Greetings everyone, this is your familiar voice of yours truly speaking here and presenting a special new topic. To begin, let us reflect on what has transpired in the past. If you recall my video titled Tommy Thomas Meets the Queen, which celebrated my 6th anniversary on YouTube, then you might remember the distinctive 3D title display that accompanied it. Believe it or not, it was one of my initial attempts to utilize Blender to create elements of my content for all of you. Unfortunately, when I attempted to use it again, the experience was somewhat frustrating and confusing for my less motivated self back then. However, as the saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again, sooner or later. Even after a decade and an additional 1.5 years. As I seek new advancements in my filmmaking and ways to expedite your online entertainment, it brings me to the intriguing idea of time-lapsing my learning journey. What better way to start again casually than by modeling some simple locomotives? In this case, some that appeared as background elements in nostalgic children's storybooks. Although each one was featured on just a single page of their respective books, they evoke a great deal of imagination, and I believe I can learn a lot from them about a challenge as creative as computer graphics. Therefore, without further delay, let us immerse ourselves in the modeling of some Storybook Cameo trains within the 360-degree realm of Blender. Our first CG train is depicted from a book starring the trouble-prone but lovable primate, Curious George. It was when George and his man with the yellow hat took their friend, Mrs. Silverman, to a railroad station to catch a train. You may know how George creates angry confusion rearranging letters on the station's schedule and makes up for it by saving a boy's toy train engine from falling onto some tracks. The next scheduled train starts arriving at that point, and that train in particular is what I've decided to attempt to model here. When I was a child, my paternal grandparents would have a VHS tape of the old Curious George 80s cartoons waiting for me, and this black and red train we see for only a couple of seconds was always a stunner for its unique size. Now, imitating it as an adult, not only is it a good evocation to my family and steam trains, and perhaps to some of your memories as well, but also spawned a bit of difficulties, as any 3D modeler could guess, I suppose. Like I did for Filmora when I started using it, I explored various tutorials beforehand, which provided valuable insights. Yet for Blender, several challenges arose during the execution of these techniques, highlighting the complexities of the modeling process. I actually first encountered this reality when I was making some test models to resurrect my memory and generate a new feeling. As far as that went, the only issue I've had, and still have, is rigging models for movement. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. For the train model itself, I tried the best I knew and could to sculpt the body based on the original appearance. It was a bit tricky to find a place for certain parts of the structure and fill in some gaps. This model was made with a base above the wheels which helped me create what felt like some sense on where the headlamps and the cowcatcher ramps, or steps I guess, could fit. When I was assembling the boiler and smoke box, I found myself trying to make it fit with the rest of the blocky seeming body. The funnel was a pretty unique shape of its own, made by the oh-so-satisfying extrusion effects on some edges and planes. On second thought, maybe it's just a fancy blank plate hiding the real chimney stack just so we can't really see it. Still, I like the originality behind this art-shaped funnel I made to give this train an unmissable flair. When the axles were finished, I directed myself to modeling a passenger carriage for the engine. Not too hard to complete, just a simple cube stretched out and given a beveled top. Except the windows couldn't get into an even size from front to back. The original carriage has a total of 4 windows, so that's what I was going for here. But they wouldn't follow the original alignment, unless maybe if I resized much of the body parts, which would have cost me some more time than what felt like necessary. Oh well, might as well make the best of it. Now, I understand that some of you might think that I'm trying to imitate YouTuber Rexeljet and his drawing and/or modeling videos. To be fair, however, he's already allowed others to use his music in their content as long as they give credit. Trust me, I've already done it myself, and hard feelings were seldom said. Additionally, he was just one of many individuals who motivated me to regain my determination in Blender and discover new efficiency. Thanks, man. Once I achieved a pleasing appearance, I began the colorization process. Enough done after that. Then again, even after that last step, there is still some space for tweaks before the final render. In the meantime, I think it's time for the next model. Our second model is actually the third model I've created in order. The other one will be saved as the best for last. This model here is also from some book that's not really part of my personal childhood, but it's still appealing all the same. I speak of one written by Gertrude Crampton, known as Scuffy the Tugboat, where the toy boat himself tries to seek adventure on a brook, but he gets engulfed by some stuff before he's rescued from getting lost in the ocean and reunited with his bathtub home. Somewhere at the end of this book's story, Scuffy's suddenly in the middle of a city harbor. There, we see a small black engine working with some boxcars. I find out by chance that Tibor Gergely, who illustrated the Little Red Caboose, was the one who created what I'd consider another unparalleled design for background decoration and our personal I Spy games. Its tall and short features, I believe, give a creative impression that this must be a bustling harbor. I bet this engine will be enjoyable to model. Of course, even with much lessons learned and getting the hang of features, short keys, etc., every new model can present various challenges. I aim to be accurate to the engine's wheel layout with the 2 drive wheels exposed and the rear bogie under the cab. After some struggles with the body size and studies to this weird illusion, I compressed the sides of the bottom base to find some ideal sense for now. Because much of the original engine is obscured by steam and a boxcar, I guess we can assume it could have a front beam like the one I ended up making. For a positive note, making the funnel was fun. It's got a good tall height and a cool arch shape to the rim. Like it was for the other models, the boulem feature was handy on windows and openings. Plus, creating the side rods was no problem, as it was supposedly an advantage from what I learned from the practices I was doing. The only thing I didn't add was a part of the rods that angled downward. Regardless of whether or not I was forgetful from the work, I can't quite understand how this part could work in motion with the wheels. The way I see it, it's just an odd angle without rhyme or reason. But I guess what really counts is I'm still learning and keeping you wowed, and we received a piece of art that was enjoyable to attempt. What about the boxcar? Not too nerve-wracking, aside from throwing in the colors. We'll discuss that later. Only one more model to go. And now for our last model. Don't forget, the order of the engines I've created was rearranged for this video. So, technically, here's the second one I was making. This time, we've got a train from an illustration that was clearly by no stranger. Don't know who I'm talking about? Then your mind must be full of oobleck. And yes, this is another aspect of my childhood. Miguel gets pooled to be exact. Of all the Dr. Seuss stories I like, this one, about a kid giving his beliefs that there could be fish in this junk-filled pool, is what I consider as my favorite for a relatable moral and fascinating hand-drawn pages. So let's start feeling young again and take a closer look at one of these pages. Ah yes, it's a little green loco carrying passengers. Well, too bad it's difficult to find info about this interesting train, or the other two, in general. And that's just why I'm talking about what went on in editing their 3D counterparts. Nonetheless, this model was a good step further into finding and recalling some helpful techniques. The funnel and dome were both done from what I learned from tutorials. Then I started finding out for myself the best method of using the bevel tool to make arch shapes for the cab edges and roof, but not before having trouble replicating the engine's cowcatcher. There was a moment when my stress couldn't create a triangular shape and barely resulted in an even number of open spaces. Ultimately, I settled on a rectangular shape. And then, I actually managed to make the cowcatcher's bars equal on a second try. Not too shabby for a newbie, let alone the dome setup, despite the appearance of a second dome. Silly trickery. I bet it's just a blob of illustration trying to be fancy. Moving on to the colorization. Not much to mention about this easy step. The challenge here was not the bullseye design on the smoke box, but rather nailing the original paint scheme, like it was with the scuffy shunter engine. Even with the water drop tool, it was pretty much best to just mess around with the shading. In addition, trying to add the same color material to all the wheel edges at once felt impossible. Surprisingly difficult to invent shortcuts of my own in Blender. It was all perfectly worth it at least. All I needed afterwards was to add lights, some shade smoothing, and some rest for my mind. And voila! 3 different Cameo trains, each made into CGI. This was pretty fun, and like I mentioned before, there's still some space for tweaks and... No! Okay, perhaps more space than I initially thought. I get no rest. Now where was I? Oh yeah, maybe I'll do some more Blender time-lapse videos like this. Should I? Go ahead and tell me in the comments. It's your opinions that push on this long-lasted channel. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Hope you like this video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. And now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go binge watch some more tutorials on animation rigs. And please, have a nice day.